Once ambiguity is noticed in documentation, the system changes how it reads everything that follows. Up to this point, the review has been observational, quiet, pattern seeking. But now the documentation has crossed an invisible line, not because of harm, not because of error, because the system has decided that clarity can no longer be assumed. At this stage, reviewers are no longer asking, is this reasonable? They're asking, what are we missing? The chart is no longer reviewed in isolation. It's compared. It's compared against similar cases, against internal benchmarks, and against expected documentation patterns. The cautious language that once felt natural now becomes a signal, not of care quality, but of procedural uncertainty. The phrases themselves haven't changed. What's changed is how they're interpreted. At this point, a second team is often involved. Compliance, quality, sometimes legal review. This is still not an accusation, but it is a reclassification. The documentation is now treated as potentially incomplete. Audits are not reactive events. They are pattern-driven systems. They don't respond to single notes. They respond to repetition without resolution. When reviewers see the same cautious phrasing appear again and again, without a visible decision trail, they infer that assessments may be happening, but not being fully documented. The inference matters because it changes the burden of proof. Now the record must demonstrate clarity. It's no longer assumed. At this stage, requests begin to arrive. Not dramatic, often framed as routine, additional notes, clarification, supporting documentation. From the professional's perspective, this feels confusing, sometimes even frustrating, because nothing new has happened clinically. But the system is now asking for clarification after the fact. This is where many people feel blindsided. They believe the audit is about care. It isn't. It's about traceability over time. Vague language does one thing consistently. It removes anchors. When anchors are missing, reviewers can't tell when a decision was made, what information it was based on, or how it progressed. So, they keep looking. And looking itself creates escalation. Not because anyone believes something is wrong, but because certainty hasn't been demonstrated. This is how audits feel sudden on the inside and inevitable on the outside. Once documentation is flagged, future records are read differently. Thresholds drop. Scrutiny increases. Tolerance for ambiguity shrinks. Even well-written notes are now evaluated in context of earlier uncertainty. This is the compounding effect most professionals never see coming, because it doesn't announce itself. There is no moment where someone says, "Now we're concerned." Concern is inferred through process. From the professional's point of view, this can feel unfair. They may feel scrutinized for language that once passed review. They may wonder why standards seem to have changed, why expectations feel higher now. But the standards didn't change. The pattern did. Once a pattern of ambiguity is noticed, the system responds by seeking certainty. And certainty must be demonstrated, not implied. This is why documentation habits matter more than individual notes. Systems don't remember intent. They remember patterns. And once a pattern is established, it shapes every future interaction with the record. This is also why audits often feel disconnected from daily clinical reality, because they are operating at a different level of analysis. They are not judging care, but they are judging signal consistency. In the continuation, we'll look at how small documentation habits compound over months, and why consistency matters more than individual wording. Because once exposure reaches this stage, resolution becomes slower, more formal, and harder to reverse.